Let's step back in time, okay? Like way back into like a period shrouded in shadows. We're going to try to unravel a historical puzzle, like a disappearance that unfolded even before the horrors of World War II, you know, really gripped the world.
Yeah, it's true. Most people, when they think about the Holocaust, they think of this horrific event that unfolded during the war. But the story of German Jews, it's different. It takes a very different turn, even before that.
Right, it's almost like a prelude to this nightmare. And that's why we're here. We're doing a deep dive today into the Holocaust Encyclopedia, specifically excerpts from this entry called German Jews During the Holocaust, 1939-1945. And the question that keeps echoing in my mind is this. If the Holocaust is like synonymous with the extermination of 6 million Jews, why did over half of Germany's Jewish population seemingly vanish before the war even began? Like, where did they go?
Well, that's the heart of the mystery. And the answer isn't a simple one. It wasn't like they just disappeared overnight. Poof, it was more of a calculated exodus fueled by this mounting fear and desperation.
The encyclopedia tells us that over 304,000 Jews emigrated from Germany in just the first 6 years of Nazi rule, from 1933 to 1939. I mean, can you even imagine having to make that choice? To leave your home, your community, everything you've ever known? To face an uncertain future in a foreign land? I mean, that speaks volumes about the terrifying atmosphere that had already taken hold in Germany.
You're right. We need to remember the historical context here. From the moment the Nazi regime came to power, their anti-Semitic agenda was clear. They implemented laws and policies specifically designed to marginalize and isolate Jews within German society.
It was this like slow, suffocating pressure. Was it Jews were gradually stripped of their rights, their livelihoods, even their basic human dignity? I mean, think about the Nuremberg laws of 1935, revoking German citizenship for Jews, prohibiting marriage between Jews and non-Jews. The impact of that on daily life must have been immense.
Oh, absolutely. The systematic disenfranchisement, it also had devastating economic consequences as well. Imagine your business is boycotted simply because you were Jewish. Jewish professionals were fired from their jobs. Their access to education and employment severely restricted. By early 1939, a mere 16% of Jewish breadwinners in Germany still had steady jobs. The pressure to leave must have been unbearable.
It feels like the air's getting thicker, the tension palpable. And as we edge closer to the outbreak of World War II, the situation for those who remained becomes even more precarious. But here's what I find puzzling. Why didn't everyone leave? What happened to those who couldn't or wouldn't escape?
That's a crucial question. What happened to them as the world plunged into war? And that's what we'll uncover next.
Yeah, the outbreak of war in September 1939, that marked a tragic turning point for the Jews who remained in Germany. It was almost like the war itself provided cover for the Nazi regime to enact even more oppressive measures. Yeah, like a predator sensing weakness, they pounced. The sources detail how curfews were imposed, restricting Jews' movements. I mean, imagine being told you couldn't leave your home during certain hours, unable to live your life like everyone else.
And it wasn't just curfews. Certain areas were declared off limits. Places that were once part of their everyday lives, parks, theaters, entire neighborhoods, they became forbidden zones. Their world was shrinking, constantly reminding them they were outsiders.
Even basic necessities were weaponized. I mean, food rations, already limited because of the war, they were further reduced for Jews. They were forced to stand in line during specific hours, often facing humiliation and hostility. It's heartbreaking.
The psychological impact of this, this constant deprivation and degradation, it can't be overstated. I mean, to never know when you'll get your next meal, to always be watched and judged, it must have been a living nightmare.
But it gets worse. The Nazis then demanded Jews surrender any possessions considered essential to the war effort. Radios, bicycles, cameras, even warm clothing, all confiscated. It's as if they were trying to erase their humanity piece by piece.
It's a chilling example of the regime's ruthlessness, their systematic attempt to exploit and dehumanize an entire population. And amidst all this darkness, a sinister symbol emerges, the Yellow Star of David.
The September 1941 decree that forced Jews to wear this badge, it's one of the most haunting images of the Holocaust. It speaks volumes about the power of symbols to ostracize and mark individuals for persecution.
The Nazis understood this power. They twisted the Star of David, which was a symbol of faith and identity, into a mark of shame. It made Jews instantly identifiable, isolating them further, making them vulnerable to harassment and violence.
It's like they were branding them, setting them apart. I can't imagine the psychological impact of being so visibly marked, a constant target.
And this was only the beginning. The marking paved the way. For for the next horrific chapter, the systematic deportation of Jews from Germany, starting in October 1939. Under the pretense of resettlement, the Nazis began transporting Jews eastward, initially to occupied Poland.
This was the start of a calculated plan that would eventually lead to the extermination camps. These deportations, disguised as a way to create a Jewish reservation, they were actually a step towards the final solution.
The Nisko Plan, as it was called, is a chilling foreshadowing of what was to come. They forced thousands of Jews to relocate to a remote and ill-equipped area. Near Nisko in Poland, conditions were deplorable, and while the plan was eventually abandoned, it exposed the true intentions of the Nazi regime.
The deportations intensified in the following years, with Jews from Germany and other occupied territories being sent to ghettos in cities like Lodz, Minsk, Kovno, and Riga, overcrowded, squalid prisons where disease and starvation were rampant.
And from these ghettos, the final stage of the Nazis' plan unfolded. The deportation to extermination camps like Auschwitz-Birkenau. These camps, designed for mass murder, were the final destination for millions of Jews, including those who had initially escaped Germany.
It's horrifying to realize that even those who sought refuge in other countries were eventually caught in the Nazis' web of terror. Escape, for many, was only a temporary reprieve.
But even amidst this darkness, there were flickers of resistance of humanity. Some individuals and organizations risked their lives to help Jews escape, providing shelter and support. Take the Kindertransport, for instance. They saved thousands of Jewish children by bringing them to safety in Britain.
These acts of courage and compassion, they're truly inspiring, a testament to the human spirit's refusal to be complicit in the face of evil. They remind us that even in the darkest times, hope can endure.
And it brings us to a particularly intriguing case, Theresienstadt, a ghetto unlike any other.
Theresienstadt, yeah. A name that almost seems to whisper a secret. It's a place with a dark history, but there's something even more unsettling about it, like a sense of deliberate deception. The Nazis presented it as a model ghetto. They even went so far as to stage a visit for the Red Cross. How could they possibly pull that off?
Well, it's the most disturbing aspect, how they used Theresienstadt as a tool for propaganda. The Nazis used it to deflect criticism from the international community. They portrayed it as this humane settlement for elderly and prominent Jews. They created this elaborate illusion of normalcy with shops, cultural activities, even a fake bank.
It's almost unbelievable, a carefully constructed facade to hide this horrific truth. But behind the mask, the reality of Theresienstadt was a stark contrast. It was a transit point, a stop on the way to extermination.
Exactly. Those deemed unproductive, the elderly, the sick, those who saw through the charade, they were quickly deported to killing centers in the east. Even within Theresienstadt itself, conditions were horrific, overcrowding, disease, and starvation were rampant. Over 30,000 people perished within its walls.
It makes you question everything you see, doesn't it? Even in the midst of genocide, the Nazis were masters of propaganda and manipulation. But let's go back to our original question. Why were so many German Jews absent during the most widely recognized phase of the Holocaust?
Well, the answer, as we've discovered, lies in the years leading up to the war. The exodus of over 304,000 Jews from Germany before 1939. That was a direct result of the escalating persecution and discrimination they faced under Nazi rule. They saw the warning signs, they felt the walls closing in, and made the agonizing decision to escape.
They understood the danger and sought safety elsewhere, even if it meant leaving everything behind, a desperate flight for survival. But for those who stayed, whether trapped by circumstance or clinging to fading hope, the war brought unimaginable suffering. The systematic stripping of their rights, forced labor, the ghettos, the deportations to extermination camps. It was a relentless march towards annihilation.
It's a stark reminder of how quickly hatred can escalate, how easily societies can turn a blind eye to injustice, the exodus of German Jews. It serves as a chilling warning, a testament to the human cost of indifference and inaction.
This deep dive has been a sobering journey, a glimpse into one of history's darkest chapters. What strikes me is that this isn't just about events of the past. It's a story that resonates with a chilling urgency. Even today, it forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves, about our capacity for both great compassion and unspeakable cruelty.
Indeed. It begs the question, what have we learned from this history? Are we any better at recognizing the warning signs, at challenging prejudice and discrimination before they escalate into violence? The answer, I believe, lies in each of us. It lies in our willingness to speak out against injustice, to stand up for those who are marginalized and persecuted.
As we conclude this deep dive, I urge you to reflect on what we've uncovered. Think about the individuals who fled, those who perished, those who risked their lives to help others. Let their stories serve as a reminder of the fragility of freedom and the enduring power of the human spirit, both in its darkest moments and its brightest triumphs.